On Father's Day, I woke up to 45 missed calls. An hour later, a box arrived at my doorstep. My wife took one look at it and screamed, "Don't open it!" What I discovered inside changed my life forever. Before we begin, subscribe to Revenge with Davis and turn on the bell. New twists every week. Stay to the end for the reveal. The morning sun crept slowly through the curtains, scattering warm light across the kitchen table. A half-eaten slice of cake sat untouched beside my coffee cup. It was my birthday, yet the house felt emptier than ever. The ticking of the wall clock was the only sound filling the silence. I am Richard Hale, 68 years old, a retired architect who spent his life designing buildings that touched the sky. But on that day, the only thing touching me was loneliness. My wife had passed years ago, and my only son Daniel had promised to visit. He had said it clearly 2 nights earlier. "Dad, don't make plans on Sunday. I'll be there. I wouldn't miss your birthday for the world." I believed him. I wanted to believe him. The hours passed slowly. I set the table for 2, as if the act itself would summon him through the door. I reheated the stew I had cooked the night before, a simple meal we both loved. I even took out the old photo albums from the cupboard, thinking we would laugh over his childhood memories. But the chair across from me stayed empty. By noon, my hope began to sink. I stared at the clock again and again. 10 o'clock passed, 11, then 12. Still no knock on the door. My coffee had grown cold. The stew bubbled untouched on the stove. I picked up my phone. No messages, no calls, only silence. By afternoon, a heaviness settled over my chest. I tried to distract myself by sweeping the floor, watering the plants, even fixing the squeaky hinge on the kitchen door. But my mind wandered back to the same thought. Where was my son? At 3 in the afternoon, I sat by the window and watched the street outside. Families walked past holding balloons. Children carried wrapped gifts. Laughter drifted from the neighbor's house where they were celebrating their own gathering. The contrast cut deep. My own house felt like a shadow. I dialed Daniel's number once. It rang until voicemail answered. I hung up without leaving a message. Maybe he was driving. Maybe he had a reason. I convinced myself to wait longer. 5 o'clock came. The cake on the table had dried at the edges. I hadn't taken a single bite. The stew had burned on the stove, filling the air with a bitter smell. I threw it away in silence. Then it happened. My phone buzzed once. A missed call from Daniel. Relief shot through me. I grabbed the phone instantly, but by the time I pressed the screen, it was too late. Missed call. I stared at the screen, waiting for it to ring again. Minutes passed. My hand trembled slightly, and then it buzzed again. Another missed call. Then another. Within 10 minutes, I counted 5 missed calls. My pulse quickened. Why wasn't I hearing his voice? Why wasn't he staying on the line long enough for me to answer? I tried calling him back. The line rang and rang before cutting off into silence. No answer. Confusion clawed at me. Something was wrong. I could feel it deep in my bones. My son had never called me this many times in such a short span. He would normally text if he couldn't talk. But here there was nothing. Only missed calls stacking one after another. By the time the evening shadows grew long across the walls, I had counted 15 missed calls. My heart pounded with unease. I walked the length of the living room again and again, gripping my phone so tightly that my knuckles turned white. The silence of the house now felt different. It wasn't just empty, it was threatening. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at my reflection. My face looked older than I remembered. The lines deeper, my eyes tired. For a moment I whispered to myself, "Happy birthday, Richard." But the words felt hollow. At 8 o'clock sharp, the phone began buzzing again. The calls came in bursts. 10 more missed calls within minutes. The screen glowed with Daniel's name flashing over and over. But when I answered, nothing. Only dead air. 45 missed calls by the end of the night. I sat frozen at the table, the untouched cake still in front of me, my phone glowing in the darkness. Something was terribly wrong. I could feel it in my chest like a stone pressing against my heart. And in that silence, I knew my birthday had become something else entirely. A beginning, a warning, a nightmare I had not yet understood. The night grew colder. The cake on the table had gone stale. The frosting cracked and dry. But I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. It wasn't about the cake anymore. It was about what those 45 missed calls meant. I sat in my chair, phone clutched in my trembling hands, staring at Daniel's name glowing on the screen. 45 missed calls. No voice, no message. Just the haunting buzz again and again, like a ghost knocking on the door of my sanity. Why didn't he speak? Why didn't he stay on the line? Was it deliberate? Was he in trouble? Or was it something worse? Jessica's photograph sat on the mantel, watching me with her warm smile frozen in time. My late wife always believed Daniel would grow into a good man, even when I had my doubts. I felt her eyes on me now, as if urging me to act. I whispered to the empty room. "What do I do, Jess?" The phone buzzed again. The 46th missed call. My chest tightened. My instincts screamed. Something was terribly wrong. I dialed back with shaking fingers. It rang and rang and rang, no answer. Again I tried. And again. Still nothing. The silence on the other end was heavier than words. I left a message. My voice cracked as I spoke. "Daniel, it's Dad. If something is wrong, tell me. If you're in danger, I'll come. Just answer me." I waited. Minutes felt like hours. No reply. By midnight, I could no longer sit still. I grabbed my coat and keys, slid on my worn leather shoes, and stepped into the night. The air was sharp and cold, slicing against my skin. The streets were empty, houses dark except for the occasional flicker of a TV behind curtains. My footsteps echoed louder than usual, like the world itself was holding its breath. Daniel lived across town, in a small apartment he shared with his girlfriend. I knew the route by heart. I had driven it countless times, usually to deliver money he claimed he needed urgently. Old debts, car repairs, rent, excuses piled on excuses, and every time I believed him. But tonight felt different. Tonight wasn't about money. Tonight was about fear. As I drove, the phone buzzed again on the seat beside me. I glanced down. The 47th missed call. My stomach churned. I almost swerved before pulling the car steady. I didn't answer. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that veins bulged across my skin. "Hold on, Daniel," I muttered. "I'm coming." The city lights blurred past. Stores shuttered. Empty bus stops. Silent intersections. It felt like the world had folded in on itself, leaving only me, my car, and the unanswered questions chasing me down every street. When I reached his building, I parked across the road. The lot was nearly empty. Only a few dim streetlights lit the cracked pavement. Daniel's car was there. Relief washed through me for a moment. At least he was home. But then I noticed something. His car door was slightly open. Not much, just a crack. Enough to send a chill crawling down my spine. I stepped out, my shoes crunching against gravel. The night was so quiet that even the sound of my breathing seemed too loud. I approached the car slowly, heart pounding in my ears. The door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, the driver's seat was empty. A jacket lay crumpled across the passenger side. Daniel's jacket, the one I gave him last winter. I picked it up with trembling hands. It was damp, as if it had been outside too long. My phone buzzed again. I nearly dropped the jacket. 48th missed call, but this time I pressed answer. Silence. Then a faint sound, a whisper breathing. "Daniel," I shouted into the receiver. "Is that you? Talk to me." The breathing grew louder, uneven, almost like sobbing, but no words came. "Daniel, if you're in trouble, I need to know. Tell me where you are." Nothing. Then the line cut. Dead silence. I stood frozen beside his car, clutching the phone, staring into the shadows of the parking lot. My heart raced so fast it hurt. The building loomed above me, windows dark like empty eyes. Somewhere inside, my son had called me 48 times. Somewhere inside, he was either alive or... I couldn't finish the thought. I stuffed the jacket under my arm, tightened my grip on the phone, and walked toward the building. Each step echoed like a warning. The door buzzed faintly as I pushed it open. The smell of old carpet and damp air filled my nose. I whispered under my breath, "Hold on, son. I'm coming." The hallway stretched long and narrow. My shoes clicked against the floor. Every shadow looked alive. My phone vibrated again. 49th missed call. My chest tightened, but I didn't answer this time. I needed to see him with my own eyes. I reached his apartment door. Number 307, paint chipped, mail stuffed under the frame. My hand shook as I raised my fist to knock. 3 times, hard knocks. Silence. Then, from inside, my phone buzzed again. 50th missed call. I stared at the glowing screen. Daniel's name, my own son, calling me from the other side of the door. And still he would not speak. The hallway was silent, but the phone in my hand kept glowing. The 50th missed call. Daniel's name, his number, and yet not a single word. Only silence and breathing. I pressed my ear to the apartment door. At first I heard nothing. Then faintly a sound, a scrape, a shuffle. Almost like someone moving furniture or dragging their feet across the floor. "Daniel," I whispered. "It's Dad, open the door." No answer. I knocked harder. The sound echoed down the hallway. Still nothing. I tried the handle, locked. My heart pounded. I knocked again, louder this time. "Daniel, it's me, please." Silence. I stepped back, my hand trembling as I gripped the phone. 50 missed calls and not one word. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. I looked around the hallway. Empty. No neighbors peeking through their doors. No footsteps on the stairs. Just me and the weight of dread pressing against my chest. I pulled my keys from my pocket. Daniel had given me a spare years ago when he first moved in. He laughed then, saying, "Just in case I lock myself out, Dad." I had kept it on my ring all this time. Now that key felt heavier than lead. I slid it into the lock. It resisted at first, as if the door itself didn't want me inside. Then, with a reluctant click, it turned. The door creaked open. The apartment was dark. The only light came from the glow of the street lamp filtering through thin curtains. The air smelled strange, damp, metallic. Something I couldn't place immediately, but it made my stomach tighten. "Daniel," I called softly. My voice cracked in the silence. "It's Dad, I'm here." No answer. I stepped inside. The carpet muffled my footsteps. My phone buzzed in my hand again. The 51st missed call. The screen glowed so bright it lit up the room for a moment. I froze. The call was coming from Daniel's phone, but Daniel's phone was right there, on the coffee table, glowing, buzzing, lit up with my name on the screen. I stared at it, my breath catching in my throat. I was holding my phone, and his phone was calling me, again and again. 52 missed calls. I picked it up slowly. The plastic felt cold against my palm. I pressed answer. Silence, then a sound, breathing, uneven, labored. "Daniel," I said, my voice shaking. "Where are you? Why are you doing this?" The breathing grew louder, and then I realized it wasn't coming from the phone. It was coming from the bedroom. I turned slowly, every muscle in my body tightening. The bedroom door stood half open. Darkness pooled beyond it. My feet moved before my mind caught up. One step, then another. The carpet felt like it was swallowing my shoes. My hand brushed against the wall, searching for the light switch. The phone buzzed again. 53 missed calls. I reached the bedroom door and pushed it open. The smell hit me first. Stronger now. Metallic. Coppery. The kind of smell I had only ever known in hospitals. Blood. The room was dim, lit only by the faint glow of a lamp knocked on its side. Clothes were scattered across the floor. A chair was overturned, and in the corner, half hidden in shadow, was a figure. "Daniel," I whispered. He was sitting on the floor, his back against the wall, his knees pulled to his chest. His face was pale, streaked with sweat and tears. His phone lay on the floor beside him, its screen cracked. The calls had been coming from here all along, but his eyes were wide and wild, staring at me like he didn't recognize me. "Dad," he croaked, his voice hoarse. "You shouldn't be here." I dropped to my knees beside him. "Daniel, what happened? Why are you calling me like this?" His hands trembled as he clutched something to his chest. At first I thought it was a blanket, but then the light caught it. A box, small, wooden, old. "What is that?" I asked. He shook his head violently. "Don't touch it." I reached out anyway, but he pulled it tighter. His eyes filled with panic. I said, "Don't touch it." My phone buzzed again. 54th missed call. But the screen showed Daniel's number. His phone was in his hand. He wasn't dialing. My blood ran cold. If he wasn't making the calls, who was? I grabbed his shoulders, forcing him to look at me. "Daniel, talk to me." "What is going on?" Tears streamed down his face. "I tried to stop them, Dad, I tried. But it's too late." The phone buzzed again. 55. The sound filled the room like a warning bell. I turned toward the doorway. The apartment was dark, silent, but suddenly I didn't feel alone. Someone else was here, and they had been calling me all night. Daniel's breathing filled the room like a small storm. Slow, ragged, unsteady. He clutched the wooden box to his chest like a life raft. The lamp lay on its side. The curtains moved in the thin draft from a cracked window. The phone on the floor lit up again. 56 missed calls. I forced my voice to stay calm. "Talk to me." He shut his eyes as if my words hurt. "Please," I said. "Tell me what is happening." He swallowed hard. His throat worked like it had forgotten how to speak. Then he opened his eyes and looked at me like a child who had broken something precious. "Dad." I made a mistake. A big one. I reached for his shoulder. He flinched. "Not from me. From the apartment. From the air. From something I could not see." The phone lit up again. 57. The sound cut through my nerves like a blade. "Who is calling?" I asked. He shook his head. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "It is not just a call. It is a countdown." His words froze me. "A countdown to what?" He stared at the box. "To this." I looked at the wood more closely. It was old and scarred, dark grain. A brass latch held shut by a small padlock. The kind you buy for luggage. I could see a smear of something on the lid. Not dirt, not dust. Something darker. Where did you get it? He laughed once. It sounded broken. They gave it to me. Who? He looked at the door. He looked at the window. He looked at the ceiling like he expected it to answer. Men who smile without their eyes. Men who know things about me that I never told anyone. Men who called me by my full name like a judge. I kept my voice low. How did it start? He pressed his forehead against the wood. I thought I could fix everything. One deal, one job. Quick money. Then I would pay the rent. Then I would buy time. Then I would show you I could be strong. He shook his head. The deal was not money. It was a favor. The phone buzzed. 58. What favor? He took a breath that sounded like a wound. They wanted access. They wanted codes. They wanted the kind of data you think is locked. He looked at his hands like they did not belong to him. I told them I worked near it. I told them I could not get inside. They smiled. They said I could help in other ways. Small things. Carry boxes. Move bags, make calls. I thought it was nothing. I thought it was small. Then it was not small at all. I felt the room shift around me. What did you move? He met my eyes and did not blink. Something that did not want to be found. Footsteps moved in the hallway outside. Slow. Heavy. They passed the door. They faded. I could hear my blood in my ears. What is inside the box? I asked. He shook his head again. Do not open it, not yet. Not without help. They said if I opened it before they called, it would be the last thing I ever did. The phone lit up on the carpet. 59. I picked it up and stared at the call log. All of it was the same number. Blocked. Unknown. No voice. No message. Just the sound of someone breathing when the call connected. Just the sound of fear sent across the line like smoke. Why 45? I asked. He blinked like I had pulled him back from a ledge. Because they wanted you to suffer first. Because they wanted you to come here. Because they wanted to make sure I did not run. He tapped the box with one knuckle. Because they wanted me to hold it while I listened. Call him. Hang up. Call him again. He looked sick. They told me your face would crack by the 20th call. They told me your hands would shake by the 30th. They told me you would finally move by the 40th. They were right. My throat burned. You did not do this to hurt me. He shook his head so hard it looked like it hurt. I did it because they were in the room with me. Because one of them pressed the phone against my ear. Because the other one put a hand on my shoulder like a friend. He looked past me at the door again. They said I owed them a door. They said I owed them an old man. I felt cold down to the bones. Where are they now? He listened. He breathed. He closed his eyes and listened like his life depended on it. Gone. For now. They said they would watch from the street. They said they would wait until the calls reached a number. He looked at the phone again. 60. I crouched and set his phone on the bed. I powered mine off. He jerked upright. No, do not. They will know. They will think we ran. They will think we called the police. I forced myself to breathe steady. We need help. He gripped my wrist. Not yet. Not until I tell you the rest. If you call them without knowing the rest, you will put them in danger too. Who? His eyes filled. Maya. I felt the name hit the air like a stone in water. His girlfriend. Where is she? He swallowed again. Not here, they took her. The room tilted. I grabbed the edge of the dresser. They took her when... He looked at the lamp on the floor. This afternoon, they waited for me outside her work. They said she would be safe if I kept the box closed. They said she would be safe if I brought you here. They said she would be safe if you listened. My voice sounded like it came from a far place. Listen to what? He looked at the box like it had a heartbeat. To the numbers. To the rules. To the order. He wiped his face. They said the calls would stop at 75. They said the door would knock 3 times after that. They said I should hand the box to the man who knocks. They said I would see Maya again if I did exactly that. The phone lit up. 61. I stared at the cracked screen. A dark thought slid through me. What if the man at the door is not here to trade? What if the man at the door is here to end the story? He did not answer. He did not need to. We both knew. Tell me everything. I said, all of it. No gaps, no mercy. He nodded. He took a slow breath. He spoke in pieces. I listened in pieces. He had met a man outside a betting shop 3 months ago. The man called himself Voss. He wore a neat suit. He used a soft voice. He remembered people's names without effort. He said Daniel was smart. He said the world had rules and he could teach them. He said debt was just a number and numbers were obedient. He said work could be light if a man learned how to carry weight. At first it was errands. Ship this, pick up that. Deliver a sealed envelope. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your head down. Keep your phone on. The money came fast. The fear came later. Hidden cameras, names spoken at the wrong time, doors that opened without keys. Then came the vault. Not a bank, not a store.
Something in between.
Boxes without names. Codes without faces. Voss never touched anything himself. He smiled, he watched. He used boys with shaky hands to lift things that were worth more than houses. I stared at the box. What is inside? Daniel shook his head. I think it is leverage. I think it is a key that does not look like a key. Maybe a drive, maybe a ledger, maybe a list. He swallowed again.
Maybe a piece of you.
A piece of me. He nodded. Voss knows about your house. Voss knows about your past projects. Voss knows about mother's medical bills. Voss knows the year you sold your car to pay my tuition. He looked at the floor. He knows things I never told him. He knows you kept every receipt. He knows you keep copies in a metal file by your desk. He knows the make of your safe. He knows your first dog's name. My mouth went dry. How? Daniel's voice was smaller now. I let him. He asked me for stories. He asked me for details. He paid me for memories. I gave him a map of our life. He used it to build a door. He used it to find the hinges. I was the hinge. The phone lit up again. 62. I stood and walked to the kitchen. The tiles felt cold through my soles. The fridge hummed like a low warning. I opened a cabinet and found a small metal toolbox. It was cheap. It was mine. I carried it back into the bedroom and set it by the box. Daniel tensed. What are you doing? I spoke slowly. I am changing the rules. He shook his head. You cannot, they said. I cut him off. They said a lot of things. I am your father. I am not their hinge. I took a flathead and tested the padlock. It rattled. It would not pop. I tried the small bolt cutters. They squealed. The metal bit. The lock held. Someone had chosen well. I set the tools down. I looked at the hinges. 3 on the back. Old, loose. I slid the screwdriver under the top hinge and twisted. The screw lifted half a turn. Daniel whispered like we were in a church. Dad, please. If you open it before the call stops, they will hurt her. I stopped. I closed my eyes. I saw Jessica in her last days. I saw Daniel at 6 with a gap in his smile. I saw Maya bringing a pie to my door with shy hands. I saw all the times I said yes when I should have said no. I put the screwdriver down. The phone lit up. 63. I sat on the floor beside my son. We leaned against the same wall. We matched our breathing until it found a rhythm. I spoke. We will not open it for them. We will not hand it to a man at a door. We will not wait like cattle for a knock. We will choose the next move. He stared at me like he wanted to believe me. But fear is heavy when it has a name. Fear sits on the chest like a second heart. He whispered. What move? I raised his cracked phone and filmed the box from every angle. Latch, grain, hinges, padlock make. Numbers etched faintly in the brass. I spoke the time aloud so the video would carry it. I placed the phone on the bed and started a second video with mine. I mapped the room. Window, door, street noise. No faces, no guesses. Only facts. Then I called a number I knew by muscle memory. Not the police, not yet. A lawyer I trusted with my life. His voicemail answered. I left a message that sounded like a report. Concise. Cold. Correct. I sent the videos to his secure email. I sent them to my own. I sent them to a backup cloud I never used. Daniel watched like a drowning man watches the shore. Why? Because when men like Voss say the word safe, what they mean is silence. We will not be silent. If we vanish, the video will not. If they knock, the record will knock back. The phone lit up again. 64. A car rolled past outside. Music thumped. Then faded. Daniel's breath steadied by a thread. I stood and moved to the window. I lifted the curtain a finger. The street was thin and lonely, but a dark sedan idled 2 houses down. No lights, no plates I could read from here. I let the curtain fall. They are watching, I said. He nodded like the words hurt. Yes. We sat with the box between us like a small animal. The room listened to us. We listened to the room. The calls marched forward like boots. 65. I looked at my son. Hear me. You did a terrible thing. You also did a brave thing. You told me the truth. You are not alone now. He squeezed his eyes shut. I do not deserve that. I shook my head. Deserve is a story for other days. Today we survive. Today we plan. I took a pen from my pocket and wrote numbers on my palm. Lawyer. Old friend at the paper who owed me a favor. A former client who built safes for a living. People who answer in the dark. People who hate men like Voss more than they love sleep. The phone lit up. 66. We did not speak for a full minute. Silence has muscle when you let it grow. Then Daniel whispered, What if the knock comes? I kept my eyes on the box. If it comes, we do not open. If it comes, we do not trade. If it comes, we make them choose a door that is not ours. The phone lit up. 67. I stood and picked up the toolbox again. I slid a thin pry bar under the bottom board of the box and tested the give. The wood sighed. Old glue whispered. I did not lift. I only learned. Knowledge is a key that leaves no prints. The phone lit up. 68. Daniel's shoulders eased a fraction. A fraction is how a life returns. He whispered. I am sorry. I nodded. I know. I am angry. I am also here. The phone lit up. 69. Outside, a siren wailed far away. It did not come closer. The night held. The air tasted like a storm that refused to fall. 70. Daniel looked at me. His eyes were clearer. He set the box on the floor between his feet. He took my hand. He held it like he used to when he was 5 and crosswalks were oceans. 71. I pressed my other hand flat on the lid. I did not open it. I only told it a truth. You are not the master here. 72. The sedan outside turned off its engine. Silence pressed its face against the window. 73. I could feel the building listening. Pipes, wires, walls. All of it felt awake. 74. Daniel took a breath that sounded like the first one after a long dive. He nodded once. Whatever happens next, we face it. 75. The phone went dark. The air held. The world hung by a thread. Then came the knock. 3 times. Slow. Gentle. Polite. The way a man knocks when he believes the door already belongs to him. 3 knocks. Slow. Measured. The kind of rhythm that made my heart beat harder, not softer. It wasn't just a sound. It was a claim. Daniel's body went rigid beside me. His hand tightened around mine until my knuckles cracked. He whispered without moving his lips. They're here. The wooden box sat between us like a live fuse. The phone remained dark for the first time in hours. No buzz, no glow, no calls. Just silence. Silence heavy enough to choke a man. Another 3 knocks. Not louder, not impatient, but certain. Like whoever stood on the other side already knew the answer. I rose slowly, my knees stiff. The air felt heavier with each step I took toward the door. Every creak of the floorboard sounded like betrayal. I could feel Daniel's eyes burning into my back. Dad, don't. But a father cannot live forever in fear of a knock. I stopped inches from the door. The wood seemed thinner tonight. Through the small gap at the frame, I could see nothing. No shadow, no shoes. Just the hum of the hallway light buzzing faintly. Who is it? I asked. My voice was steady. Too steady, no answer. Another knock. 3 again. Measured, calculated, precise. Daniel whimpered like a child. They said I must give it to him now. If I don't, Maya, his voice cracked. They'll kill her. I closed my eyes. The weight of Jessica's photo flashed in my memory. Her words, her faith in me, her belief that family meant protection, not surrender. I placed my palm flat against the door. The wood was cold. Through it, I could feel the presence of someone. Standing still, waiting. Listen, I said loudly. If you want the box, you'll have to show me your face. Silence. Then for the first time, a voice. Low. Smooth. Carrying the weight of someone who never hurried. Mr. Hale. Hearing my name made my skin crawl. It wasn't Daniel's name. It wasn't Maya's. It was mine. They hadn't come for him. They had come for me. I stepped back. Daniel shook his head violently. Don't talk to him. Don't. But it was too late. The man spoke again. You've raised a clever son. He held his end of the deal. Now it's your turn. I stared at the box. The brass latch glinted in the dim light. It felt like all the walls of the apartment leaned toward it. What's inside? I asked. The man chuckled softly. You already know. I didn't, but the way he said it made me fear I did. Something about the past. Something about me. Not Daniel. I lowered my voice. You took his girlfriend. You used my son. You think you can walk in here and take what you want. The man sighed. Mr. Hale, you misunderstand. This was never about him. This was always about you. He was just the hinge. You are the door. The words hit me like a blow. I looked at Daniel. His eyes were wide, wet, pleading. He shook his head again and again. I'm sorry. I didn't know. The knock came again, but not 3 this time. 1, heavy, final. The kind of knock that carries no question, only command. The apartment light flickered. The phone on the floor lit up once more. 1 new call, blocked. The number glowed red, not white. Different. Wrong. The sound of it filled the room like thunder. Daniel screamed, "Don't answer it." But I already had. And when I pressed the phone to my ear, the voice that spoke was not the man at the door. It was Jessica's, calm, soft, familiar. "Richard," she whispered. "Let them in." Jessica's voice slid into my ear like ice. "Richard." It was soft. It was calm. It was impossible. Jessica had been gone for years. My grip on the phone tightened. I wanted to believe. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. The hallway light flickered. The man outside did not knock again. He was waiting, always waiting. I whispered into the phone. "Jessica." The voice answered. "Yes, Richard, it's me." "Open the door." Daniel shook his head violently. He mouthed the word no. My chest burned. My hands trembled. How could she be speaking? Was it a recording? Was it a trick? The voice was too sharp, too alive. It even carried the small breathy hit she used to have when nervous. "Richard, open the door. They will not hurt you." Tears stung my eyes. Daniel crawled forward. He grabbed my sleeve. His nails dug into my skin. "Dad, don't. It's not her." The phone hissed faintly. Then the voice changed tone, sharper, colder. "Richard, do not make me repeat myself." I froze. Jessica never spoke like that. Not to me, not in life. I pulled the phone away from my ear. The line was still live, but the sound had shifted. 2 breaths, one high, one low, like 2 people on the call. I lowered my voice. "Who are you?" Laughter spilled through the speaker. Not Jessica's, not human. A sound made of knives. The man outside spoke through the door. "Mr. Hale, she told you the truth." She said, "Open it." Daniel shouted back, "Shut up. You don't speak for her." The man chuckled. "Your father knows her voice. He knows it better than yours." I closed my eyes. Memories flooded. Jessica's laugh. Her hands, her final breath in the hospital bed. No one could fake that, but someone just had. I whispered again. "What do you want?" The man outside answered, "The box." The phone buzzed again in my ear. Jessica's voice returned. "Richard, if you love me, give it to them." My knees almost buckled. Daniel screamed. "It's not her dad, it's him. It's Voss." The name cracked the air like lightning. The man outside grew silent. The hall light flickered again. The phone hissed. Then cut to dead silence. No voice. No sound, just the thud of my heart. Daniel whispered. "Now you know. They'll use anything, even her." I staggered back from the door. The box glinted under the dim lamp. It sat like judgment itself. I looked at Daniel. Then I said the only words that mattered. "We end this tonight." The room felt smaller as midnight closed in, shadows pressing against the walls like unwelcome guests. Daniel sat across from me, his eyes locked on the package that had turned our home into a prison. I could see the same question burning in his mind that was tearing me apart. What was inside, and why had it been sent to us? My hands hovered above the box, trembling slightly. Part of me wanted to destroy it, burn it in the fireplace and erase its presence forever. But another part of me knew the truth wouldn't disappear with the ashes. Whoever sent this wanted me afraid, and fear had been dripping through every moment since its arrival. Daniel broke the silence. "Dad, we can't just sit here. If we don't open it, they'll keep coming back. If we do, at least we'll know what we're facing." His voice cracked on the last word, and I saw the boy who had once hidden behind me during thunderstorms now standing as a man, trying to shield me from a storm much darker. I swallowed hard and nodded. My fingers gripped the tape slowly, peeling it back in strips that seemed to echo through the still house. The final flap opened with a dry whisper. Inside, cushioned by layers of newspaper, sat a small velvet case, no larger than a book. For a moment, disappointment mingled with confusion. This was it? This was the reason for the phone calls, the threats, the voice of my dead wife echoing through the receiver. Daniel leaned closer, his breath shallow. I lifted the case carefully, setting the box aside, and flipped it open. What lay inside froze the blood in my veins. It was a phone. An old model, scratched and dented, but the screen flickered to life the moment the case opened. A photo appeared: Jessica, smiling at a summer picnic years ago, holding Daniel when he was no older than 5. My heart clenched painfully. Then the screen shifted. The photo replaced by a message written in stark white letters across a black background. 45 missed calls. "Only one chance left." Daniel recoiled, his face pale. "They've been tracking us," he whispered. The message repeated itself, the number flashing larger, brighter, as if mocking us. 45 missed calls. The weight of it pressed on me harder than any threat could. This wasn't about money or simple revenge anymore. This was personal, Intimate, a reminder that the enemy knew exactly who we were, what we'd lost, and how to break us. I snapped the case shut, the screen going dark, but the damage was done. The box had been opened, and nothing in our lives would ever be the same. The night stretched long after the box had been opened, but neither Daniel nor I could close our eyes. Every sound outside the creak of a branch, the crunch of gravel, even the distant hum of a car engine felt like a threat pressing closer. I sat in my armchair with the velvet case clutched tightly in my hand, while Daniel paced the floor like a caged animal, his nerves on the edge of collapse. The message inside the phone haunted us both. 45 missed calls, only one chance left. It wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. Whoever was doing this knew exactly how to strike where it hurt most. My thoughts twisted back to Samantha, my daughter, and her husband, Peter. Their faces rose from memory like ghosts, the shouting, the demands, the venom in their words. I remembered Peter's last warning on my doorstep. "We know your routines. We know where you live." Was this his idea of punishment? His way of proving that I would never escape his reach? Daniel saw the tension on my face and stopped pacing. "You think it's them, don't you?" he asked. I didn't answer, but silence was enough. He cursed under his breath, dragging a hand through his hair. "We should call the police again. This time we tell them everything." But the doubt gnawed at me. What could I tell them? That my daughter had possibly sent a phone in a velvet case, rigged with messages about missed calls? That a dead woman's voice had spoken through my receiver? Without proof, it would sound like paranoia from an old man haunted by grief. And worse, if the police questioned Samantha and Peter without evidence, it would only provoke them further. Daniel slumped onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. This isn't just about scaring us anymore. They want control. They want to make us desperate enough to crawl back and beg. His words hit me with brutal clarity. That was the truth. It wasn't about money. It wasn't even about inheritance anymore. It was about power. About reminding me that no matter how many walls I built, they could always find a way inside. The old phone on the coffee table buzzed suddenly, rattling against the wood. Both of us jumped, hearts pounding. The screen lit up and there it was. A single number glowing on the screen. Not a missed call this time. A live call. Daniel looked at me, fear and determination colliding in his eyes. "Answer it, Dad," he whispered. My hand shook as I reached forward because deep down I knew. Once I answered, there would be no going back. The phone vibrated on the coffee table, its faint rattle echoing through the silent room like a ticking bomb. Daniel leaned forward, his fists clenched tight against his knees, waiting for me to move. I hesitated, staring at the glowing number. No name, no location, just a string of digits that meant nothing and everything at once. With a deep breath, I pressed the green button and lifted the phone to my ear. At first, only silence, then a voice calm, deliberate, chilling. 45 times we tried to warn you. 45 times you ignored us. Now you have only one chance left. My mouth went dry. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice trembling between anger and fear. The caller chuckled softly, a sound that felt like knives scraping glass. "You already know who we are, William. You just don't want to admit it." I froze. They knew my name. They always knew. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles ached. Daniel moved closer, his eyes locked on me, desperate to read the expression on my face. The voice continued, lower now, more intimate. "This isn't about money anymore. This is about consequences. You closed the door on us, but doors can be opened. Or broken down." Before I could respond, the phone's speaker crackled and another voice bled through. A woman's voice, weak, trembling, but unmistakable. "Jessica, my late wife. William." My chest constricted, my heart stuttering in my ribcage. It couldn't be. She had been gone for 2 years. Yet the sound was perfect. The same warmth. The same cadence I'd fallen asleep to for decades. "William, why didn't you answer?" Tears blurred my vision. Daniel grabbed the phone, his voice sharp. "Who is this? How dare you use her voice?" The line went silent for a beat, and then the first voice returned, darker than before. "One chance left. You'll find the truth at your doorstep by morning. Miss it, and you'll lose everything." The call ended with a sharp click, leaving only static in its wake. The phone screen went black, but the weight of the words pressed down on both of us. "At the doorstep, by morning. One chance left." Daniel turned toward me, his face pale but resolute. "Dad, whatever's coming, we can't face it alone." I looked at the door, at the shadows dancing outside the window, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure if morning light would bring answers or destroy what little family I had left. The night dragged on like a slow, suffocating storm. Every tick of the clock echoed through the house louder than thunder. Neither Daniel nor I slept. We sat in the living room, lights dim, the phone lying between us like a cursed object. Outside, the street was silent, the kind of silence that made even the shadows seem alive. At exactly 3 a.m., the doorbell rang. A single chime, sharp, deliberate, vibrating through the floorboards. Daniel jumped to his feet. "Dad, don't," but I was already moving. My heart pounded, my body stiff, yet something pulled me forward like fate had wrapped a chain around my chest. I opened the door. A box sat on the doorstep, plain cardboard, the same size as the one that had started it all. No return address, no markings except this time, written in thick red ink across the top, "Answer us." The letters bled like wounds, still wet, smearing under the porch light. Daniel stepped beside me. His jaw tightened. "We're calling the police." He turned to grab his phone, but I stopped him. My hands were trembling, yet I lifted the box carefully and carried it inside. The cardboard felt cold against my palms, unnaturally heavy for its size. We placed it on the coffee table. For a long moment we stared. Neither of us spoke. Then a faint sound drifted out. Not hissing, not rustling, but the steady beep of a phone notification. Daniel's eyes widened. "Dad, it's a phone. Inside." I tore the tape open with my shaking hands. Inside lay an old black flip phone. Its cracked screen glowed faintly, displaying one message. Daniel leaned closer, his breath shallow. "Read it." I pressed the button. The message filled the tiny screen. "You ignored 45 missed calls. Now you must face the last one. Step outside." The phone vibrated violently in my hand, then went dark. At the same instant, headlights flooded our front window. A car idled at the curb, engine humming low, two silhouettes barely visible through the windshield. Daniel's hand gripped my arm. "Dad, don't go out there!" But I knew. The moment had come. This was the truth they promised, the truth that had stalked us through calls, boxes, and threats. I stepped toward the door, my body heavy but my resolve steady. As I reached for the handle, Daniel's voice broke behind me. "If you go out there, you may not come back." I looked at him, my son, my last anchor to this fractured world. My voice came out low but firm. "Then remember this. Whatever happens tonight, you must never let fear decide your life. Fear is their weapon, not ours." I opened the door. The night air slapped cold against my skin. The car door opened. A figure stepped out slowly, tall, shoulders squared, face hidden in shadow. They stopped under the streetlight and with deliberate slowness lifted their head. The light revealed a face I knew too well, one that twisted my stomach with equal parts rage and heartbreak. It was Samantha, my daughter. Her eyes burned with something between hatred and desperation. And in her hand, glowing faintly, was another phone, the source of those 45 missed calls. Daniel gasped behind me. I froze, my heart breaking even as it hardened. The betrayal was no longer hidden in whispers or boxes. It stood before me, undeniable, breathing, staring straight into my soul. And in that moment I realized the story wasn't ending. It was only beginning.